Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is International Breakfast Tea from the Spice and Tea Exchange, which is a tea that my sister got me recently. And there is no question about how much I love this tea. It is definitely one of my top favorite teas. There's just something about it. Good times. So I'm doing a tag, and that was my little lead up to the 20 Bookish Questions tag. I'm going to be looking down a bit because I have it written down. I was tagged by Kim from Middle of the Bookmarks. Excellent channel. I'm pretty sure when she tagged me, that was what put my channel over the edge from like 995 to like 1,000. I really think it is. So thank you, Kim. And also, if you haven't checked out her channel, please subscribe because she is great. So I'm going to do these questions. And oh yeah, the original was by the book. I think it was a Goodreads tag. I don't know. So I'll have to look into that. And yeah, some of these questions are a little bit in absolutes, like favorites, least favorites. I'm not usually good at that, but I'll work my way around it. So the first question is, how many books is too many books in a book series? In a good series, there's never too many books because you just want to keep reading it. Isn't that the point? In a series that's not good, well, obviously, just please don't make it a series at all. Some books are really good as a standalone and should stay that way, but I think sometimes people get pressured. Where was I reading somewhere or hearing somewhere that Lucy Maud Montgomery, Ellen Montgomery, who wrote Anne of Green Gables, wrote Anne of Green Gables as a standalone, and then I guess it became popular, so the publishers encouraged her to write more. And even though I really do love that series very much, especially Anne of the Island, Rilla of Ingleside, yeah, very good books. But yeah, sometimes when you think about it, I'm glad they made a series out of that. But Anne of Green Gables was amazing on its own, and many other books are really. But yeah, I'm kind of glad she did. Okay, number 2, how do you feel about cliffhangers? I don't like cliffhangers, and I'll tell you why. And of course, it depends on the kind. I keep saying it depends, but that's the tag catchphrase. It depends. The thing is that I used to read, I think it was Nancy Drew mysteries, and usually the end of every chapter was a slight cliffhanger. So that was good because it would keep you going. You keep wanting to read on. But it was just in a book. So, I mean, if you were, say, on a commute somewhere and you needed to finish a chapter and then you were going to leave your commuting, train, whatever, audiobook, whatever you're doing. So I'm going to leave at the end of this chapter, and then it leaves you on a cliffhanger. It's a little frustrating, but okay, so later on a break or after work, whatever, I'll do it. I'll read this again. But books that end in a cliffhanger, and I also searched the term cliffhanger, see where it originated, and apparently it came about from a book or story or something by Thomas Hardy, where someone was literally left hanging off a cliff. Thomas Hardy! Such a love-hate relationship with that man. Anyway, so I thought that kind of illustrated to me what I dislike about cliffhangers is leaving you hanging is not fun. If you do it at the end of a book to be continued into the next book in a series, I could see why you would want to do that because you want people to keep an expectation of it. If you end it to never write another book, that's just messed up. Some people do end a book without resolving it, really, and I'm like, I'm not the tidiest person, but tie it up. Tie it up. Wrap it up. But I just don't understand when you finish a book and you're not going to maybe come out with another book for another year. Yes, okay, great. So now you know that you're going to have someone waiting for it, but that's not fair. Why are you going to do that to our lives? I also think about this is kind of morbid, but a lot of TV shows and, nasal, around this time of year, and in America at least, and then they bring it up, the new season starts somewhere in the fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it, and that leaves months in between. You can say, okay, well, that's good that you'll be in anticipation if you have a cliffhanger. Oh, what's going to happen to that person? They walked into a building and the building exploded. Are they dead? What happened? Yeah, that really did happen once in a year where I was watching a show and that happened. So and I was like, okay, fine. So it keeps you waiting, but then you got to think about it. If you're really invested in a story, you got to think about it the whole summer. heaven forbid it's like Doctor Who, where you don't know where it's going to be the next, anyway, anyway. But I was just thinking about some people I knew who died in the summer. It's like, so if they were in the middle of a TV show, which someone I knew was, then they never got to see what happened. What on earth is that? Ah, ladies and gentlemen, the police. Anyway, they're not here for me, I don't think. Maybe they're telling me to stop talking about cliffhangers and move on to the next. I just find them frustrating. Anyway, hardback or paperback? I mean, I like both. You can probably see by my background, there's both. But I guess if I could choose one, it would be paperback. They're toteable. They're fun. They take up a little less space. They are less heavy, like I said, toteable. So that's good for me. But I like both. Favorite book? I don't have a favorite book. I have favorite books. So I could go on about these are a few of my favorite books, but I'm never going to, how did you like that moment, my Julie Andrews moment? I actually recently at Book Off, a couple months actually, I think, I picked up part 2 of her autobiography, and I'm waiting for part 1, and I haven't taken it home yet. But anyway, I want to read that while she's still with us. But anyway, memoirs, I guess, memoirs. Okay, I just really just go on tangents, don't I? I'm leaving you in a mild cliffhanger waiting for the next question. Probably not. Anyway, so I don't really have a favorite book. I just have a favorite books. And the same thing with least favorite book. Usually if I don't like a book, I just don't keep going with it. Sometimes I was forced, you know what I mean, very much encouraged to read it for school. So there were a lot of books that I read in school. Some were good, but then there were books like The Pearl by John Steinbeck that just upset me so much. The Lives of John Lennon by, I think his name was Albert Goldman, I think. It was just I was in such a Beatles / John Lennon phase, reading all his biographies, and I know about his flaws, but it just upset me so much the way he wrote. So bitter. But I don't really have a least favorite book. Love triangles, yes or no? Yeah. But just do it right. It's like anything. If you do a good job of love triangles, then by all means, they can be very interesting. But over relying on love triangles, I think, is a bit lazy. If someone's always writing them in their books, it's like, okay, sometimes that doesn't happen in life. The most recent book, this is number 7, the most recent book you just couldn't finish. Or you just couldn't finish. Well, I have a problem sometimes where I DNF books, not because I hate them. I'm just overwhelmed with so many books, and I'm like, I can't get to this right now. And one of the books I did, which I was kept out of the library because I don't have any penalties yet, and I kept out of the library for 5 months, and I wasn't continuing with it, was the Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. I think that's what it's called. I wrote it down, but I think I wrote it down right. And it was okay. It was actually probably a good book. There were things about it that I found very intriguing, but there was something about the things that she was coming up against that were just putting me in a upset kind of way. So I guess it just wasn't for me right now. I do want to get back to it, but I had to return it to the library for now. So I'm not saying anything against the book. Actually, I thought it was a good book. At the moment, though, I just couldn't finish it. So there it is. Number 8 is a book you're currently reading. How much time do you have? I'm currently reading a lot of books. So I'll choose one that I am sort of currently reading, but I put a little bit of a pause on it. Just, after my cat died, I just needed to read either really positive things or just things that didn't feel bleak. And I was already lagging behind. So that was the Divine Comedy by Dante. I was still in the Inferno part of it, which I was getting really to one of the lower circle, and it was just getting more and more, interesting, fascinating, great poetry, but I just couldn't deal with it. So I said, okay, but I'm still reading it, and I'm going to probably get back to it this week again because I just needed a pause, but I'm currently reading it. I'm reading other books too, but I'm about to finish a lot of these books. Yeah. Number 9, last book you recommended to someone. Does it count if I recommended it on BookTube? I don't know. And I've probably recommended a number of books over the past month or so. But I just thought of the month of March when I was on the phone with my friend and I had just finished The Daughter of Time again by Josephine Tey, and I said, oh man, you have to read this, because I know my friend likes history and she likes novels, and I thought this would be so interesting to her. I hope. I could be wrong. You know, people have different opinions. But I don't know if she actually ended up getting it, but I did recommend it, and I do hope that if she does read it, that she likes it. I know someone else I know read it and found it very intriguing, and they are currently reading a lot of Tudor era books. Not as a result, but it didn't hurt. So I can never get enough of Tudors. Sometimes I need a break. Someone just commented on my last video about how they're just a little put off Tudors right now, and that's fine. But the oldest book you've read would be the Bible. Yeah, definitely the Bible. And after that, well, I haven't finished it, but I was reading Herodotus' History. I think that was pretty old, but not nearly as old. I haven't actually finished a lot of things, so I can't really talk about Homer here. Lots of gold. But yeah. So number 11, newest book you've read. I don't know if this is the only newest book I've read. I've read a number of books recently that were new releases, but I would say Broken by Jenny Lawson came out in April, and I read that in April. Someone's screaming outside. I'm in the middle of reading a couple of new releases. I also finished Notebook by Tom Cox this month. So maybe that's the most recent one, but I'm not sure which one came out first. So I don't know which was the newest or the newest that I've read. Favorite author, number 12. I would just say I would say Jane Austen, because she is my favorite author, but I have a lot of other authors that I love so much. She's just going to be the favorite. I like Jasper Fforde a lot. I like Christopher Fowler. I like Agatha Christie. Sharon K. Penman I liked a lot. Even Jean Plady, even though I haven't read anything of hers for a long time, but since she really got me into reading history and historical novels, definitely she's up there. There's probably some nonfiction writers that I should be thinking about too when I think about this. I like Peter Ackroyd. I like oh my goodness, he's in back of me, isn't he? I'm gonna turn my back at you. David McCullough. How could I forget his name? Both the books I read by him were amazing. But Jane Austen. I can never get enough of Jane Austen. July is coming soon. That's a good thing. Finally. Number 13, buying books or borrowing books. That's a hard question for me because I still check a lot of books out from the library. And I depended on that so much in a big portion of my reading life. So I probably will never finish with borrowing books. Borrowing books from other people is a little harder because there's always that feeling hanging on me that I'm borrowing it. So in that case, I would rather buy books. And in any case, I would rather buy books, whether it's used or new. But you see, you can't really use the same reasoning. Used books and library books are both books that were touched by other people. Not that new books haven't been at all, but you know what I mean. People might have read it and left things behind in it. Sometimes fun things like bookmarks and sometimes not so great things. Why people think that it's okay to leave their nose treasures in books, I do not understand. Every once in a while, I'll be reading a book and then I'm like, and probably other things that are worse. But so that's the problem with library books. But otherwise, sometimes you get a nice pristine library book. That's pretty good. In the long run, though, if I have the luxury, I'd rather buy books, as you could probably tell. Number 14, a book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. That's a hard one because I don't know any book that everyone else seems to love. But among the people on BookTube that I think I watch the most, or I spend some kind of time interacting with the most, I would say there's two books that I found people do tend to like. I don't know about love, sometimes love, but that I don't hate. Well, it says dislike, but I just, and I actually own these two books. But one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. She wrote an amazing book. I just had a hard time with it. I don't consider it a romance, and I don't think a lot of people do, but I just, yeah, if I'm going to be honest, there were things that I found interesting about it, of course. It would have been great to read as a teenager. But if I was going to rank all of the Bronte novels, I haven't read The Professor, but all the rest I have read. So, not counting The Professor, I would probably put Wuthering Heights at the bottom. And I know so many people who swear by Wuthering Heights, and they may even say, I know it's not a love story, but it's so amazing. And I'm like, okay. It is. It is amazing. I don't have to like it. Same thing with Little Women. I actually did kind of like the first part of it. So, I have it in one volume, but I think it used to be Little Women and Good Wives or something. And it was the second part that I didn't like as much. The first part, some parts dragged for me, but I pretty much liked it. But I didn't get that feeling that that many people I know who read it did, which was, oh my goodness, it is just a book that I live by. I think it was good. Yeah, there was an element of dislike. I don't even know how to explain it. I think there were just things that disappointed me. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll actually get around to finishing it, because it's hard to say that I dislike it when I didn't actually finish it. And maybe I'll have better thoughts about it. Anyway, Bookmarks or Dog Ears. Oh God, I hate dog earring books. I hate it. I just hate it. I'm like, if it's your own book, do what you want with it, obviously. But if you're ever planning to give it away, then, But I just get a little, what's the word? I mean, technically it can be considered annotation, because you could dog ear the part of the book that you want to refer to. But it just, so I'm like, is it that hard to find a little piece of paper to stick in? Any piece of paper, a receipt, a little something torn off of something. I mean, you don't have to have a beautiful bookmark. I like pretty bookmarks. I want to do a video where I'm showing all my bookmarks that I have, but there's always so many of them in circulation that it's going to be an incomplete tour. So, we'll see. Number 16, a book you can always reread. 84 Charing Cross Road. I reread that every year at least once. Yeah. There's a lot of other books I can always reread. Most of Jane Austen's books, I feel, always wanting to reread. A lot of other books, but definitely that one. Especially because, yeah. Number 17, can you read while hearing music? Sure. If I'm going to put on music while I'm reading, which I don't do too often, but occasionally I did. I mentioned in a previous video that my cat Zenobia, when she was still alive, had a bit of a nasal problem. And so sometimes she would, and I want to spend time with her, but sometimes she would go off and sit in a corner and just make this breathing, like this, kind of a snoring kind of noise. And I didn't want to stop her from resting. So I would put on music to drown out that sound. And, usually I would pick some kind of classical music, something instrumental that is not distracting. If I'm in a place, which I feel like it won't be too long before I start going back out to cafes and reading again. That's something I'm on the cusp of, but not quite there yet. But if I'm in a place like that and I'm reading, or anywhere that I'm reading that I don't have control of my surroundings, I can usually read even if they're playing music somewhere in the background, if it's not too loud. Because then, the lyrics will start to get in the way of what I'm reading a little bit. But then again, so would conversation in a way. So sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. But I prefer not to have music on when I'm reading. I don't need it. But there are some beautiful music. YouTube has a lot of mixes of yeah, I guess whatever you want to call it. Playlists, yes, of music to study by, music to read by, and sometimes they actually do help me concentrate. So yeah. Number 18, one point of view or multiple points of view. I am fine either way. I like one point of view because you know who you're following, and multiple takes a little more work, but I don't mind a little bit of work. As long as I know whose point of view it is, and if it's done in a way that doesn't give me whiplash and doesn't I don't want to be confused. That's all. I'm reading, I'm almost finished with And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and there are multiple points of view there because there are about 10 people at least who have points of view. So it took me a little while to get used to it, but it wasn't bad. But please use the names. Don't use he or she or they or whatever when you're talking about another point of view, because it will throw me off. It just will. Number 19. Do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? Most of the time over multiple days. Most books, it doesn't take me one day to read. Definitely not one sitting, unless it's a little golden book or a children's book, or again 84 Charing Cross Road maybe. But yeah, I'm not a fast reader. I'm not the slowest reader, but a lot of books take a little time. And the last question is, who do you tag? And to be honest, I've seen this tag traveling around BookTube for a little while, so I think I would only just double tag. But if I'm mistaken and you see this tag and you say, oh, you know what? No one tagged me. First of all, please mention it in the comments below if you would have liked to have been tagged in it, because maybe I can keep you in mind for next time. And also feel free to do it, because it's a pretty cool tag. Yeah. Anyway, so that's all for today. And this is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. I don't know how to say my own name anymore. I can't say my name anymore. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but we're not going to get into that. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day.